Absolutely none of you asked me how I became a minimalist, and that is exactly why I'm making this video. If you are new to this corner of the internet, where I very generously assume that I live, I may exist next to videos by Benita Larson, Shel Bizzle, Catherine Kellogg of Going Zero Waste, Ada Zen Life, the Minimal Mom, Sustainably Vegan. That may not be the actual world I'm living in, but that's the world I want to live in. Their videos might seem a little out there. You might not even know that plastic is an issue on the planet at all. You might not even know what zero waste means. And that is a great thing. That means you're at the beginning of your journey of learning about all us little freak shows here on the internet, trying to be a little nicer to the planet. So maybe that we don't have to go to Mars to live, we can just choose to go. So first, what even is minimalism? You might think of sad beige moms or decluttering videos or stark white houses. Maybe the home edit, if you've heard of those guys. Maybe you think of hippies and people that keep chickens and homeschool or unschool their kids. Sure, that could be a definition of minimalism. That is that extreme that I'm talking about. That is just massively displayed on the internet. Why? Because the internet thrives on extremes. But my minimalism doesn't look exactly like that. My kid has plastic toys. Most of them are secondhand. I still eat fast food sometimes, but much less now because there are smarter ways to do it. I have a cat, but I don't have any chickens. My clothes are old and they're not the most fashionable. I'll be the first person to admit that. And this year I've only purchased secondhand clothes just to kind of see if I could. Now, I'm not done creating my dream eco-minimalist life. But this in-between step that I'm on, I feel is really important to show. You've got to know that the middle of this journey is messy. Going from regular consumer, possibly hoarder, person who doesn't really think a lot about what they bring into their home, to whatever your perfect dream minimal life looks like, whether that's monk status or just not having to clean as much because you don't have as much junk. The middle part is where the journey lies. That is the meat of it, and I'm there right now and it's messy. So let's start at the top. What happened? How was I indoctrinated? Probably common story. It was COVID, and I was binge watching Netflix like the rest of the planet. And this story isn't unique, right? I was floundering. I was learning yoga and I was leaning into meditation really heavily during that time. My husband was going off to work, continuing to kind of live his life like normal, and I was stuck in my house alone because the industry I work in was shuttered. So it was an all-around time for reset. So in my daily binge watching of Netflix, I came across The Minimalists and their minimalism documentary. It does an excellent job of giving you the roots of the problems that you might find interesting and latch onto in order to give this lifestyle a try. So what I like about this documentary is that it gives you a pretty decent, in-depth introduction. It's almost like an oxymoron, but I think you understand what I'm saying about lots of different overconsumption issues so that you can kind of latch on to whatever interests you particularly. The personal ramifications, the financial, personal and global pitfalls, the ecological ramifications in tech and in fashion of overconsumption. So I latched on, I think at first, to the fashion issues because I had always been really interested in kind of doing a capsule wardrobe. I tried the Project 333 long before this, so I didn't know anything about how detrimental the fast fashion industry was. And this documentary got me kind of started thinking about it and researching it and thinking about how many clothes I bought per year. And I really latched onto that. The amount of waste that the fashion industry creates to keep making us buy fast fashion is disgusting. It shows the absolute worst of humanity. The burning of the clothes that have only been on shelves for a week so that people who actually need them cannot have them is something you need to know about before you shop on Shein and Temu ever again. Also places like Zara and H&M, not just the online retailers, y'all. I'm also, if you know anything about my YouTube channel, getting into the personal finance part of it right now. Just how much money I've been able to save by thinking about the purchases I make instead of just making purchases because I can or think I can. I was spending on money on things that I didn't even want just because I thought that I needed them in order to be an adult or to be successful or to be meeting societal standards of success. That just for the record, that's bullshit. So I got into this during the pandemic where I was certainly panicking about the state of the world, not only environmentally, but the state of humanity as a whole, my personal situation, financially and physically. And I was just like super depressed about how apocalyptic everything is at your call. Through all my meditation, through all my mindfulness, I really was able to take some of these tools and take some of these thoughts and reflect on them in a really mindful way, because I had exercised that muscle through COVID. Making choices intentionally and meditating helped me take it one step at a time through what was and what is increasingly becoming a pretty scary world. Funny thing is though, I actually don't follow the minimalists anymore. Their content really scratched an itch for me, and especially when I was just getting started. And I love the documentary directed by another fantastic minimalist, Matt D'Avella, who has a great YouTube channel, by the way. However, how do I say this nicely? It is a very white, very male, very privileged perspective, a demographic that certainly needs this messaging and needs this sort of inspiration to maybe consider in their lives. But it started to lose its resonance with me when I started listening to the podcast really regularly. I love TK Coleman. I love that they're starting to mix it up a little bit, but it's just like too quippy for me. I think they forget that they are not smarter than the rest of us. I've done a whole book club on here for their Love People Use Things books. I didn't try to drag them, but you can go and tell me what you think. I actually did go to one of their events when they were here in Atlanta. They were at City Winery. And the funny thing was, their live events are like word for word the documentary. Just FYI. The documentary also has a ton of like recommended reading that really helps you start digging into whatever you find interesting. And like the people that they have in the documentary become names that you will recognize, especially as you start this journey. They are everywhere. They have written all of the cornerstone books of minimalism. They should be honored and upheld. They are really, really brilliant people. So it's like a really great introduction on like who's who of minimalism. I also did their men's game. I documented the whole thing on my Instagram, and it was really enlightening. It helped really clear out a bunch of the just like regular old junk that was in my house. Just like multiple spaghetti spoons, so many like DVDs and CDs of things that I didn't need anymore. Look up Men's Game, give it a go. Then I tried a 1,000 item declutter, and I'm not sure if I just like made that up, but you can go watch my video of recapping that entire experience, because it was a fun way to like spread the men's game out, because we had done the men's game in 2020, maybe 2021. And then over 2022, we did the 1,000 item declutter, which was great because that was the year we moved into our first home. And it made it more of like a marathon than a sprint. It was about setting the intentional habit of decluttering as we like really dug deep into this minimalism stuff. It took us, like I said, a whole year to do the 1,000 item declutter challenge, but like depending on where you're at in your decluttering journey, it might take you an afternoon. So it might be interesting. And I also really liked counting because it was like a reward system in my head. I had like in my bullet journal, I had like a little graph where every item that I got rid of in the house, I like got to gray out a little square. Just an idea. And like I said earlier, I did a version of the Project 333, which is a really popular wardrobe challenge if you're trying to streamline your wardrobe. And it just wasn't necessarily perfect for me. I like being able to see everything. I'm kind of one of those people that's like, if I don't see it, I'm gonna forget about it. And I just like love reorganizing my closet, so I don't really mind like going through stuff on a pretty regular basis. And I've also really leaned into this like capsule wardrobe idea. So the fact that I have pieces that I can wear year round, especially in the climate that I currently live in, where it doesn't get extreme cold or extreme hot, it works for me. But it was like a really good challenge to just kind of like curb your clothing purchasing. I'm actually able to share a closet with my husband, which I think is probably pretty rare for a millennial couple. That's just how few clothes we have. We actually don't even have a dresser. And now I talk about what I'm experiencing and what I'm doing on YouTube. I am adding my voice to the conversation because most of the folks that I follow and come across on YouTube that talk about this kind of stuff are like super well-trained people, which is incredibly helpful for someone like me who's just trying to figure stuff out. And they're like well-established minimalists. Their houses are already minimal. They're not really doing deep declutters because they don't need to. They set up the systems in their lives to where they're not bringing stuff into the house. They are also usually people with no kids by choice and aren't necessarily dealing with the same challenges that I am. I am not a full-time content creator. I own a business, and YouTube isn't that business. And so I only do this because I hope that one of my videos helps another person who is trying to do this for real and not just hopping on their consumption core as a trend. I love that it's a trend, but it like needs to stick around. And I've already started to see that. Like I've already had a couple of people reach out and be like, I think of you every time I think of this stat, or I tried 1,000 item declutter and it's like crazy. I counted everything in my house. That it makes me so happy because it means that like there are other real people out here trying to just like not be buried in trash for the rest of their lives. I got on a tangent. So I watched a minimalist documentary and just like became a minimalist. Yeah, basically. I did a massive declutter that I've mentioned I did on Instagram. I did have very close friends of mine mute me on Instagram while I was doing it because I was so persistent about it. Yeah, I don't think about that at all. And I was also doing this in the lead up to us buying a home, but also in the lead up to our wedding. So I was able to take this like minimal, sustainable mindset into an event that generally is pretty wasteful financially and materially. So as I started to declutter, I was trying to get some of the stuff that I was getting out of my house to new homes in a responsible way, because I started to realize that like dropping everything off at Goodwill wasn't necessarily the like be all end all that I think some people think it is. So then I started researching and learning about the environmental impact of all of the crap that I had and all the crap that everybody else has too, which led me down a path of sustainability. So story time, one of my chores as a kid with my brother was to load up the recycling in my mom's car and drive it to the recycling center in the county over, because it was better than our counties, and drive home and then wash her car. That was our chore every other weekend, probably once a month maybe. We had the basic structure of knowing, not just to like recycle, but I didn't really give it much additional thought. We just recycled. That's just what we did. Learning that not everybody recycles was a thing. But I didn't think a lot about on the front end, like the stuff that we brought into our house, mostly because I wasn't the one in charge of buying and bringing things into the house because I was a kid. But I am now an adult who is in charge of how we bring things into the home. But dang, am I in overdrive. Like it's a lot, and I understand. Like I think my friends are probably over this, which is why I've started making YouTube videos about sustainability and minimalism, because I talk about it constantly with everybody and anyone that will listen. Our house is not the perfect minimalism dreamland, nor is it the sustainable dreamland. I've got lots of projects I want to do, but we are composting. We recycle everything and make choices about what we buy, not only for ourselves, but for our son, based on the materials that they are made of or packaged in. We buy as much secondhand as we possibly can. And it started to save us a bunch of money, which led me down a path of financial education. These things are connected, and not just for me, I think, but I think for a lot of folks. I'm educating myself on these things that were sadly left out of my education as a child and a young adult. Thankfully, we have the internet, and we can find communities that help us and inspire us to be the best versions of ourselves and to learn more about the things that are important to us. And that's where I'm at now. That's where I'm at. Not finished, but I'm also not just starting. I'm trying to follow this path wherever it will lead me and instill some new habits along the way. So in the description below, I'm gonna link a bunch of my favorite resources. So like videos, creators, books, blogs. I don't really read blogs. Does anyone read blogs anymore? Newsletters? I don't know. You tell me. But I'll link some fun stuff that on thrift books. Let's be real. We're not supporting Amazon on this channel, y'all. But these are some of my favorite things that I was reading, especially right at the beginning of my journey. And now as I continue in a couple of years, I'm revisiting to kind of reignite the fire in certain aspects. I'm sure I'll make a video talking about each one of these eventually on their own, but for now, they're all here if you're trying to get your minimalism lifestyle jump started. So if you're thinking about playing around with minimalism, let me be the first person to tell you to go for it. It is probably like the safest lifestyle to play with. There aren't any downsides I can think of, other than being irritating to your friends and family. Safer than heroin, or opioids, or politics, or TikTok bank fraud. Minimalism is much safer than that. Anyway, that was my journey. The rest of it is basically here on YouTube. Subscribe if you want to watch some more of my messy middle minimalism. Oh no, we can't say that. The messy middle of minimalism. Oh, that's so awful. I gotta get out of the middle. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you have any questions about minimalism, like put them below. And like I said, I'm not a content creator. I just make videos when I think of something I want to talk to you guys about. So like, I've got a few requests that I'm working on right now. Like a video about soda streams, a video about Facebook Marketplace selling, because some people have asked about that. What am I, just a regular old influencer? I don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.